Hey guys, so this will be my full review over The Flash Season 8, Episode 12, titled Death Rises. Holy crap, this was an amazing episode. I'm gonna get right into it because this was amazing. So it opened up basically with Deathstorm doing a monologue at the beginning of the episode saying that he traveled through space to get to where he's at now. And it went to a flashback of when Ronnie and Kate were getting married, and then Ronnie going to the singularity and dying, or supposedly dying. Then it goes back to present day. Deathstorm is fully merged. It was an amazing shot, amazing CGI of Deathstorm. Walking up to Caitlin and acting like he's gonna kill her. She is completely absorbed in the fire. Barry shows up, throws lightning at it. It doesn't affect Deathstorm at all. So Barry can't really do anything against this thing. Caitlin's still alive. And why she's still alive, she didn't die right away, we'll get into that in a couple minutes. There are 0 marks from Deathstorm burning Caitlin on Caitlin's body. If you had like a 3rd degree burn, it would show. Caitlin didn't have any of that. No burn marks, nothing. Even though she was completely on fire, nothing was shown. We find out why in this episode. Deathstorm got mixed up. Deathstorm wanted the Firestorm Matrix to become a full being, which we find out at the end of 811. Caitlin's blaming herself for all of it, which it is kind of her fault. The cold fusion sphere was destroyed because of frost, and at the end of 811, so it isn't useful option anymore. They can't fix it, at least right now. They don't have the time to, so it's out of the picture. Cecile could feel how worried Bear is related to Iris missing, going through all that. Then Barry gets a text from Sue saying Iris is back. Barry runs over there, and Iris is worried she will hurt Barry and anyone else comes near her, like she did to Tina's mom, and to, whatever. The time sickness saved Iris from Tina's attack. Remember in 811, Tina used her powers on Iris, but the still force brought Iris away last second and saved her life from whatever Tina was doing. Iris saw her past and present in the still force, but never saw her future, meaning she doesn't have one. And she's worried that, again, she won't have one, which is pretty damn, convincing. Which would mean Nora and Bart will never be born, at least, they won't be West Allen, so they'll know what's going on there. So then it goes to this guy who's obviously been through some loss, and he's sitting at the city metro waiting for a bus, and Deathstorm comes flying in, takes him up to the air, burns him, and drops him on the ground. He's a burning corpse, and he's dead, obviously. Kramer is calling the Flash to go to CCPD with that buzzer the beeper that Bear gave Kramer in case she ever needed the Flash. So Iris telling Bear to go. He didn't want to because everything that's going on, but Iris told Bear the city needs a Flash right now. There's several reports of dead people coming in, reportedly by a skull-looking creature with a skull face set on fire. You have to give it to the police officers. I mean, they've dealt with so much crap in the past 8 years. Now they're dealing with a living corpse that's set on fire, killing people. Yeah, and the thing is that they just instantly believe it. They might have questioned it, but having been through everything they've been through in this damn city, it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't like, okay, that's not surprising with everything that's been happening. So Joe and Flash are in Kramer's office talking with Kramer. Flash shared the info that his name is Deathstorm, how they found that out, or on some of how they found that out. Kramer's questioning how Joe handled all of it as captain because he did it for a year or two, and she just doesn't understand how Joe did it. Kramer said she will call Bear instantly if they ever run into Deathstorm because they can't handle it. Barry really can't, but Barry's her best shot at stopping Deathstorm because of his power. The cops, they can't do anything. Kramer can't do anything. Barry's our best bet. So that's why, even though he can't do anything to stop it, that was his plan. Kramer, and it was a really amazing scene. I'm glad we're getting the CCPD stuff, even if it's just Kramer, Joe, and the police officers, not specifically around the Flash or Barry. But I'm really glad we're getting all this now. It should have been years ago we should have been getting this. But Kramer is talking to all the officers in TCPD to lock down Central City. And if they're going through any grief or loss recently, to tell Kramer or Joe. And then Kramer issues a citywide lockdown, making sure that no one else will possibly die during this. Team Flash is getting nothing on Deathstorm. Since Deathstorm turned into a new being, a new form, like a corpse like he is now, they can't use their old methods. There's no possible way to try Deathstorm right now. The cold fusion isn't working. Even though he is cold fusion, it's not specifically tracking him yet. Whether or not they'll put that in later, who knows. I'm assuming they would. I can't see them not, because he is cold fusion, they mentioned that. But because he turned someone else, Arrow, that's like a thing now. I can't stop saying something else, someone else. Whenever it happens, that goes through my mind. Okay, Deathstorm went from something else to now he's someone else. This is what's happening. It's Arrow. Arrow knew in the pilot when they did that thing and it stuck for 8 years, they knew this would happen. I'm just going to say that. We all knew this would happen. Something, someone else. That's what it is. Batwoman mentioned in the comic. Now Flash is doing the same thing with Deathstorm. I mean, Jesus. I don't mind it, though. So, Bear wants to use Cecile's powers to find Deathstorm and recognize that grief is an emotion. And an emotion that Cecile can follow. Finally, Cecile's useful for once with her powers. So, Allegra's worries that Cecile singing up with Deathstorm could possibly kill her if they aren't careful, which obviously, why would they be? Because they can't be careful with this. But Cecile's on board, doing it nonetheless. Doesn't matter about the stakes, it needs to be done. And she understands that. Caitlin's still blaming herself. Then we go back to Iris and Sue in the apartment, and Dion appears. And apparently Dion's getting sick from Iris' sickness. He's getting affected as well. Which I was kind of wondering, like, Dion's giving her all these treatments, wouldn't he be affected by it a little bit? And they finally mentioned it. And Dion's telling Iris that right now, she doesn't have a future. He knows that. Now, when he says that, I think we all know this is dead serious. Like, Iris seeing stuff, like, you know, it could just be random parts. But Dion controls it. He knows it all. He's seen the future. He's seen the past, the present, every second of every day. So when he's saying Iris doesn't have a future anymore coming up, you know that could be pretty damn serious. Dion wants to use something similar to the tracking app that Iris and Sue used to find Tina and Tina's mom to keep track of Iris. So Dion makes a still force tracking app thing, like a ball of energy, and pushes it onto Iris with, you know, magic and that. And now Dion can keep hold of Iris, or track her in any way. And then Dion started, like, grunting like he's in pain, and then just disappear into the still force. No idea where the hell he went, but he's obviously sick. Then it goes back to Team Flash. Cecile needs to focus on large pockets of grief than Barry's going in. Now, the thing is, a massive amount of grief is coming from inside Star Labs. Deathstorm ended up talking through Cecile. He was there talking through Cecile, and he could do that because Deathstorm and Cecile are connected. Barry can't do anything to stop him. We already knew that. But the only way they will survive is if Deathstorm can get Caitlin. Because if they keep protecting her, they can't get to her. So Deathstorm will probably just kill them all until he gets to Caitlin, or on some level get Caitlin. I want to point out, Grant's acting in this scene. Me and a couple people on my Arrowverse Discord server were talking about this. The acting from Grant in this scene, with him just a stolid, cold gaze looking into Deathstorm's eyes, were so amazing. I love that. It just shows you not only how good this season is, how good the writers are doing, but just on the same level, how good an actor Grant himself alone is. We've all known Grant's a great actor, but after 8 years, we are finally getting Grant doing, like, legitimate, good, amazing episodes. After years of horrible writing, horrible lines, we're finally getting that, and I love it. So then Barry says he's not afraid of Deathstorm, and he can feel sorrow coming from Bear and Chester. So that's why he was there. And then Deathstorm lets us see Allegra. We go back to Allegra, who's in Star Labs on like 4 levels down, is seeing her cousin Esperanza, who died in season 7. There was a whole episode about Allegra, it was alright. It was an interlude episode in season 7, where Barry wasn't in it. It actually was a pretty good episode, because it actually developed Allegra a lot. But Allegra knows this isn't her cousin. She knows everything that's going on. Deathstorm with Chester's dad. She knows all of it. So she doesn't believe for a millisecond this thing is her cousin. She believes it's Deathstorm trying to kill her. And there was a massive blast between Allegra and supposedly her cousin, but it knocked Allegra back. And that's the point we gotta look at for a second. The entire Star Lab shook when that happened. Barry knew pretty much right away that was Allegra's blast, because it was the blast that was coming in through the scanners in Star Labs matched up with Allegra's powers. So Barry ran down there, and nothing was there. Her cousin wasn't there. There was a big hole in the wall where Allegra shot. But the thing was as I said, when Allegra shot at her cousin, the blast shot her. So somehow, some way, the blast is bounced and reflected back on her, even though it hit the wall and put a big hole in it. So somehow, some way, this thing is, managing to duplicate or something. I don't know. I'm assuming they're going to go on that, but it's very interesting what they're doing to Allegra, and I love it. At least in that scene. Iris is worried about Bart, Excess, and Bear's future, because if Iris dies or something happens, Excess and Bart will never be born. So, their kids wouldn't be born. Iris had another episode going in and out of the timeline. The time sim is sucking her in. It was a really amazing scene. And then Sue mentions Nora, Bear, can't talk, about to say Bart, well, I was about to say Bart. Nora, Bart, and Barry, to keep her in the present, like Dion said, and she managed to anchor herself in the present. Theoretically anchor herself, or metaphorically, however you want to word it. Anchor herself in the present, so it does in their episode. Then we go to amazing scene with Joe and Barry. Again, this is an amazing episode, period. If you didn't like it, you need to quit watching this show. I'm sorry. But if you did not like this episode, you need to quit watching, because you're not going to like any other episode of this season. There was no possible way you did not like this episode if you do not like this show. I'm sorry. I know it's my opinion. I'm saying it as a fact. But legitimately, this episode had everything I have ever wanted to see from The Flash as a show. And we got it all in one episode. We've been getting throughout this entire season. But legitimately, if you didn't like this episode, you need to quit watching the show, because you are definitely not going to like anything else that happens. I'm telling you right now, there's no way. If you did not like this episode, you're not going to like the rest of the season. So quit watching and quit. Just don't send hate on it. Let us enjoy it, because this is something we've never got in The Flash, and I love it. So Joe mentions DeVoe, Zoom, Cicada, and Bloodwork, how Barry managed to get through all of that, and he mentions that all the weaponry in the world won't be able to help him now against Deathstorm. He had to be ready. He had to be who he is to stop all of them. And he has to be ready to fight with this power that he has, which is, running. And knowing how to use that power, which he does now. Then we go into Speed Lab. Caitlin's sleeping and Frost is drawing. Or Caitlin's resting at least. Deathstorm appears in the Speed Lab, attacks Frost, throws her back, and goes after Kate. Deathstorm took Caitlin. Frost is still alive. Barry goes after Deathstorm, and Barry's gold, wonderful, beautiful, amazing boots, which I love so much, can bounce off of energy, can harness the energy to keep him going. So for the first time in the entire show, we've actually saw Barry throw lightning in the middle of air and him be able to run off of it. It was an amazing scene, amazing CGI. And if anyone's going to hate on the CGI this episode, they can go screw themselves, because it was amazing. Like, this is what I've been wanting from The Flash for the past 8 years, and we finally got it. Barry running on his own damn lightning. That should have been a thing in season 1. I mean, this is a comic. This is literally straight out of the comics. Barry using his lightning to run on. I'm 90% sure that was done in the comics. If it wasn't, then good on the writers for coming up with it. But I'm glad the writers came up with this on their own, period. Like, this is a massive step up from season 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, even 1. This is a massive, massive improvement with Barry and his speed and what he can do. And I am so happy that this is the show that they're doing it on and not some stupid spinoff that's probably going to happen in like 2 years. But anyways, Barry caught up to it, and Deathstorm, the second he's about to grab Deathstorm, teleported away, opened a portal, and they're gone with Caitlin. Then the portal opened up in the festival outside Central City, and Deathstorm had Caitlin shoot, and there were, I think, 4 or 5 people there that were grieving. We could see through Deathstorm's vision, there was like a blue energy coming through these victims in Deathstorm's eyes that showed him who was going through a loss that he could feed off of. And then Deathstorm killed those 4 people, and then everyone else got away. So he could only attack people who are grieving. He doesn't attack anyone else, because it doesn't feed him. We gotta remember that. So he absorbed all the deaths to make a more powerful defeat, as we found out earlier in like a couple episodes ago. And we found out Deathstorm's actual plan. This entire time, Deathstorm was been after Caitlin. We thought it was for him to fully transform. While it wasn't just for him to transform. He wants Caitlin to transform into another version of Deathstorm so they can be bright, so they can be married, so Caitlin can be this dumb thing's bride, and they can rule everything because they're unstoppable. And together they would be even more unstoppable. And that's Deathstorm's plan, is to use Caitlin and go through all that. Barry goes there. Caitlin's on the ground, kneeling. Deathstorm isn't there at all. But Deathstorm didn't fully transform Caitlin because she isn't ready yet. Or he isn't ready yet. 1 to 2. Then we go to Star Labs in the medbay. And Caitlin, we find out, isn't aging anymore. Her cells are amplifying, completely changing because of what Deathstorm did, transforming her. Caitlin has a lot of grief inside her that Cecile found out, enough for an entire family. Because of the 4 people that Deathstorm killed, he used those 4 bodies, the energy absorbed from it, on Caitlin. So the only way Deathstorm can fully transform Caitlin is to kill more people to absorb their deaths and then put it onto Caitlin so she can fully transform into another Deathstorm. That's why he's been killing all these people. Not only for him to survive, but also to transform Caitlin to another thing. The flame that Deathstorm's been using on Caitlin was never intended to kill her. Like we saw in the beginning of the episode or even at the festival, it was to transform her, which is why there were no burn marks on Caitlin, which is why she was never injured. That is why. Barry mentions he saw inside the portal. He's talking to Chester and Allegra at this point. And it looked like Chester's singularity when Deathstorm teleported, meaning they're somehow connected. The singularities are all connected to Deathstorm. He's using singularities to go through, and when he gets inside, it's just a singularity. That's what it is. So, Deathstorm has been searching for 7 years for Caitlin because he was that deep in space. I am so glad they said that. Now, here's how Deathstorm got that deep into space. When Ronnie went into the singularity, he had all this grief picked up from leaving Caitlin because he knew he was going to die, so all his grief and sorrow picked up. And when he got sucked into the singularity, Deathstorm came in and became Ronnie, pretty much. Even though he's dead, he still became Ronnie and got sucked far into deep space. And for the past 7 years, he's been searching for Caitlin. Not Ronnie, Deathstorm. Deathstorm has been searching for Caitlin for the past 7 years. He knew where she was, but it took him 7 years because he was that deep into space. And that is amazing writing, and I love it. Chester wants to use the Mac, which they use to contain Chester's black hole energy in 601, to make sure he didn't erupt into another black hole. But they're going to adjust it, so instead of absorbing it, they can use the energy to attack Deathstorm and to stop him. But there needs to be someone in there to contain that energy, to use it. And Frost is the best one to do it because of the cold fusion she has. Then, this is the end of the episode, it goes to Iris in the loft, and Eddie appears. And you can hear this hissing, like Deathstorm. So this is Deathstorm going after Iris right now, and he's appearing as Eddie. Now, reminder, Iris knows nothing about any of that's been going on in Deathstorm, because she's been in Coast City now doing the time sickness. Bear hasn't told her anything about Deathstorm besides this thing is here, and she's never experienced it. She hasn't been around Team Flash when they're going through it. So it's going to be a very interesting episode next week. I'm assuming there's one next week. There better be. And then the episode ended there. It was an amazing episode. Hands down, either the best or the second best episode in the entire season. You could equally say 802 is the best in this season. I think 802 or 812, this episode, are two of the best episodes this season so far. Holy crap, I loved it. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the episode. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Have a good night. I really love this episode. I'm still hyped up. That's why I'm like, I love doing these reviews of The Flash mainly because I get so hyped up in the episode. It's made some videos better. But thank you for watching. Stay safe. Have a good day. Have a good night. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.